Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets, done by Prize Picks here on the Moody Media Network. We've got 10 games in the NHL. I'm Matt Moody. I'm joined by DJ Mitchell, as always, to talk to you about tonight's action. DJ, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. We had the best of both worlds since Tuesday night. We had the unbelievable high and low of Oliver Bjorkstrand, who I basically guaranteed to have the first goal of the night for Columbus against Detroit. And he scored about, a minute and 10 seconds in. Absolute snipe, perfect feed from Domi. I was going crazy. And they call it back. Now, as I mentioned, it was offsides. Like, let's get that clear. I do know it was offsides because people are like, you realize it was offsides, right? I'm like, no, like, it is offsides, but by a toenail. And it's just so frustrating, especially for people that are betting, to miss on a good prop bet that hits by that slim of a slowed down freeze frame margin. So that was frustrating.
Yeah. We could do a full show about the offsides challenge and just how awful it is. But yeah, I mean, Tuesday was actually, I think, a pretty good night, just, in the fantasy and in the betting space. I actually sort of ran off a parlay that was featured around Barre Boulay scoring a goal. I got like plus 450 on him scoring, and he kept it up. So, definitely shop around because that was not being offered in some books and it was on others. So that was actually a pretty big hit for me. I got some no goals in there with it, just hit everything, ran pure. Didn't run so pure in the DFS streets. I actually finished in second for a qualifier into like the big 3K tournament in the NHL right now. So that was like out of 80 people, I finished second by a hair. Thanks Dougie Hamilton for not hitting either bonus, but I feel like if you were following us, a lot of our stuff hit. So definitely a good night on Tuesday.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get started, Matt, you know what we have to talk about first, as we do every show, but we have even more because, boy, did Eagle McMahon get it done. I mean,
that's right.
This is slowly turning into the fantasy disc golf picks and bets show, and Eagle McMahon leading after round one. Just hitting the 55. I mean, both shooting, throwing in the disc golf. I mean, are we just jamming it again? But I'll let you give your speech.
Look, like if you need Eagle McMahon in your life, head on over to prizepicks.com and use promo code MMN when you sign up. Let them know we sent you. So PrizePicks, you go there and you're immediately hit with all of the sports. Of course, we're a hockey show, so we talk about hockey, but you can take players from any of these sports and mix them together on your entries. All you do is you pick an over or an under on their fantasy score. So like DJ mentioned, over in the disc golf space, we saw Eagle McMahon, the world's most perfect name for a golfer. On the disc golf slate, DJ was like running to the counter to jam in his prize pick entries. And oh boy, did it pay off. But anyway, on the hockey streets, what we do, we talk about the hockey players. So how they get their fantasy points are through goals, you get 3 points, assists, you get 2 points, and then shots and blocks, you get a half a point. So stay tuned to our Mayo Media Network Twitter just to see our thoughts on the Thursday action. But definitely do check out the website. It's a great time. It's a great way to sort of be involved with the hockey and even mix it in with some of your favorite, MLB, NBA, disc golf action.
Cricket.
So that's right. They have cricket too. So I don't think, DJ, you have anything else spicy for us, right?
I know you mentioned it before, but there's a video game called Val, which I'm sure is something. What
Valorant,
is it?
Yes,
Valorant. I'm looking at the names. Android. I mean, 74.5. That's an entire phone service. I just don't see a way that he can't get it done. It's all of the Androids, right?
I mean, when you say someone's botting, they're cheating, and so maybe Android's just the cheat code here.
It seems too good not to take. I just don't see how he doesn't get it done, knowing nothing about what this sport is. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see if DJ keeps running hot here on the niche sports, let's call it. But let's get into the 10 games here on the NHL slate. So we can lead things off with Dallas at Tampa. We've got Tampa at home minus 165, Dallas plus 140 on the road. I got to say, Carolina, they're a very good team, put a hurting on Dallas on Tuesday night. Tampa, also a very good team, put a hurting on Chicago. I think Tampa's the bet here at minus 165. The over under of 5.5 is awfully interesting. Tampa did show like a lot of just general signs of life offensively that, you look at their graphs over time and they've been trending down a good bit. They did start to rebound against Chicago, of course, and I think they continue that into this game with Dallas. So what are your thoughts here on this matchup? Are there any news and notes we should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, I like Tampa as like a strictly like by the numbers pick, but we're talking about a Tampa team that just clinched a playoff spot. Dallas really is playing for their life at this point. Them and Nashville are really the only race to keep an eye on for who's going to get that last playoff spot in any of the divisions. So part of me just doesn't like to take these bets here. They just feel like traps. I think the over is a lot better of a bet. Tampa definitely showing more signs of life on offense. I think Dallas is going to continue to push pace, especially with Miro and Klingberg on the points. That's just kind of what they do. I'm really a fan of some of these lines with like Rupe Hintz, plus 235 to score. I mean, he really has been shooting a ton. If you can get his shot prop, I like it a heck of a lot. I also like him on DraftKings. I think that line, that Dallas one line, that's going to go over 20 minutes, all correlated, is going to be sub 5%. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. And
it's a good value.
Yeah, so I will say that this Tampa schedule this weekend is awfully interesting too. Just we're looking at, Thursday night, of course. But when we talk about Tampa, they play on Saturday at 3:00 versus Detroit and then Sunday at 3:00 versus Detroit. So they got a back-to-back coming up. This could very well be a Curtis McElhinney game. So I'm not necessarily sure that's what happens, but it does sort of seem awfully ambitious to ask Vasilevsky to play on Saturday as well. So, obviously we won't do the show on Saturday, but if he goes on Thursday night, I would bet it's McElhinney and net on Saturday afternoon. So in any case, just stay tuned because that's a very big difference. And if it's not Vasilevsky and net, that's even all the more the reason to jam in the over on this game, which I agree. I think it's a great bet.
Yeah, I think there's a good amount of value in these Dallas guys. I mean, they're going to see a ton of run. And Pavelski's plus 210, Hintz 235. Like I just think Hintz is a much better option there to score. I just think the shot prop, you can get a Hintz shot prop over 2.5. Like he is pretty consistently hitting that, and I think it's going to continue. As far as the Tampa side is concerned, it's going to be real hard to find an Alex Barry-Boulet shot prop, but like you said, shop that goal prop because he's getting all the minutes, 12 shots on goal in his past 2 games. Super good value still on DraftKings. It's not going to get overlooked anymore. I'm not sure what his ownership ended up hitting on Tuesday in the main contest. I'm not sure if you know it.
I actually didn't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was up in the 40, 35-ish range, which was, definitely fair. But honestly, he's such a good value that's easily defensible, I think, as far as, playing him at that high ownership. But yeah, he's probably the class value here. There's really not much else to speak of, keep an eye on Rupe Hintz, but we were without David Savard. That doesn't really matter to me all that much. But if you're interested in DFS and some guys like Eric Chernak or something, you might be able to find them, a little bit of value without a guy like David Savard. Of course, if he doesn't suit up again, we're not actually entirely sure what his deal is. It might have just been a rest thing, honestly. But that's really all we have at this moment. So stay tuned, but we can move on from there into Buffalo at Boston. Boston minus 360, giant home favorites, over under a 5.5. I do feel like this over under is a little bit of a stay away, though DJ and we were talking on the Morning Skate pod about like goalies on this slate and sort of DFS wise, this game should have a ton of shots. I don't know if they go in the net per se, but the Sabres have been one of the most, up-tempo teams. And this really sort of suits us well for our shot props. So, how are you looking at this game? What are you looking to do here?
Yeah. So in the, last time out for the Sabres, there was, I'm trying to do the math in my head, 70, I think 70, no, not just under 70 shots on goal in the game. I think it was like 68 was the total against the Rangers on Tuesday night. They're really, really pushing pace. So a lot of shot prop value in this game in general for both sides. Boston's going to suppress that a bit comparatively to the Rangers, but I still think that there's a lot of upside for a goalie to get Anuko Bekka-Luukkonen, who's going to start for the Sabres, to get the 35 save bonus. If you don't play Boston in DFS, I think Ukko Bekka-Luukkonen is a really good value goalie to take because, that's basically assuming that Boston 1 doesn't go crazy. Then Ukko Bekka-Luukkonen, 42 save, 2 goal, 3 goal against. I mean, even when he gave up 4 last time to Boston, he still crushed in DFS. So even when he lost to the Rangers, he still crushed in DFS. So it's definitely an interesting way of going about it. But, a guy like David Pastrnak, I'm really high on his shot prop. Even with the reduced minutes, he's shooting like a madman. And, Boston still just trying to cement that last playoff spot, which looks real strong right now. But, they get the win here against Buffalo. They take care of business. It's a guy like David Pastrnak who has, I think, a point per game against the Sabres that I think could get it done. His to score odds are terrible. I probably would just rather do the shot prop. It's probably be 3.5. I think that's where you'll find it.
Yeah. The hard part here about Pastrnak is that Brad Marchand's been scoring the goals lately. And, it's just been a really strange situation for that top line. So I'm not really sure I'm looking to lay these odds on any one of them. But I think, really interested in their shot props. So that's sort of where I'll focus.
Brad Marchand's 21.9 shooting percentage is going to continue. Is that what you're getting at?
I mean, geez, have you seen most of his goals? He gets these, like he almost has like the NHL 21, like backhand cheese down pat. Like he's really good down low. He's in tight. He's just sort of going forehand, backhand, roofing it. Like, okay, like, all right. They're such a good passing team that he's going to be selective. And right now the shots are finding him and the lanes are finding him. So, I don't think that's necessarily crazy, but I do think his odds are a bit short at plus 116 right now. One interesting one is Sam Reinhart at plus 300. I mean, come on, like Jack Studnicka plus 295. Like, I mean,
Andre Kasha, the corpse of Andre Kasha.
Right. Like, we're not even expecting to play, but like Matt Grzelcyk is plus 350. And look, at the beginning of this year, a few weeks ago, even we were like, look, Matt Grzelcyk is shooting a lot. He's a really, really good player. He's stopped shooting. I don't think he has a shot since Vietnam at this point. So like, it's real tough scenes when Sam Reinhart's priced that high. I'm not sure I'm doing that, but if you're looking for a goal prop, I think that's the best value you're going to find. I mean, he is piping hot right now.
He's shooting a ton. They're setting him up. He's finding his spots. Yeah, it's a good bet. Anything else? So I think we're both good on probably just fading the money line. I think the Sabres are a fun bet, but I'm not going to do it myself. Over under. Where do you I think you're thinking stay away. I slightly lean the over. Like I said, the Sabres pushing the pace as much with a rookie goalie in net at Boston. Like I could see Boston putting up 3 or 4 and the Sabres just finding a way. They seem to just keep finding offense. So I'm fine with the over here with the pace that I think will exist. So if you're good with that, we can move on to the one of 2 6.5 over unders in Philly and New Jersey.
Yeah, for sure. We can start over there. The Flyers were one of my favorite bets, and that did not go well. It started bad, ended real bad. There was some good in the middle, but let me tell you, I don't think I'll do that again. The Flyers just do not look very good. I regret to inform you all that I am out on the Flyers. So big congratulations to Brian Elliott for what was likely to be, I don't know if he has a shutout this year, but let's just call it his first shutout of the year.
He had shutouts against the Sabres. He had 2.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. He was the Sabres scrim tonight, and everyone's like, oh man, the Sabres just didn't play Brian Elliott, but they'd be fine. And then we learned that wasn't the case.
Oh yeah. So anyway, that game actually hit 10 goals. It was actually, it was relatively low pace too. So one of those things where it was truly just horrific goaltending that did both teams in. Also some really poor defensive play net front and all that. But it wasn't like this game was, really back and forth. For that reason, I don't think this is an auto over. But also, I'm seeing a lot of still negative metrics, expected goals wise. So I'm just going to stay away from it. I think if you had to pick a side, I could do the Flyers again. But I'll be honest, I'm pretty scarred. So let's dig into some player props unless you had something.
No, I totally agree with everything you just said. Like that is pretty much it, Chief. Like this game is probably like the most confusing and least relevant game of like one of the more at least irrelevant games of the night. The only back-to-back from Tuesday as well, but it had 10 goals. So I'm sitting here thinking like, man, like 10 goals, 6.5 over under. Like I really want to get pieces, but I don't know exactly where they're going to come from. I think the easiest way is to build around Jack Hughes if you're taking New Jersey and DFS, and to build around Couturier and Giroux and Voracek if you're building around Philadelphia. That would have boded well. Couturier and Giroux both had goals. They both correlate on the power play with Provorov. If you get cute and do the Konechny, Farabee, Sanheim, Sanheim I think is one of the better DFS values on defense. I would say second best DFS value at defense, and we'll get to that first one later. If you're looking at props, it's really hard to find a great one. I don't know if there's one that I think is infinitely better than the others. The point props are going to be kind of priced out of what I feel super comfortable on betting. As far as guys that are shooting a ton, Giroux has come on as a huge rate shooter in the past 2 games out. That could run dry any day now. Couturier has definitely had it over the year. He's kind of been dishing it to Giroux. So I guess Giroux is like if you want to just say like this is what's happening right now, this is how they're playing, I could see Giroux, but I'd rather just go back to the well on Hughes, who finally broke his shot prop. He missed, at least he broke his streak of like 12. There's no reason behind it. Like he'll get back. It's a good, the pace is a little bit slower, but he should definitely get over 2.5. And that's basically the way I'm looking at this game right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real interesting thing about Claude Giroux is that for a shot prop, you're looking for guys who shoot the puck, of course, but you can't shoot the puck without the puck on your stick. And Claude Giroux is one of those guys, throughout his entire career who has been the guy who will sit there and hold the puck for a good amount of time. So to see him now in his last 4 games, he's averaging 7 shot attempts per game. And, he's obviously putting up a ton of shots on net as well. It's just, I think when you find the 2.5 on him, that's a really good overbet because you're looking for tendencies. And, of course, these tendencies are pretty sticky over the long term. But I think there's also something to these short-term spurts, especially for guys who aren't sort of, like I was saying, being more set up, like, you got to wait for those opportunities. Giroux creates his own opportunities. And sure, they might not be high danger chances, but I do think that that's a really good thing to ride. And I also like the Jack Hughes, like you said, he's just been so consistent for us. So I think you can go right back to that one and not feel too bad about it. Anything else here?
Yeah, I mean, the one to score prop, like we mentioned, Reinhardt at 300, Voracek at plus 310. I mean, not the best rate shooter in the world, but first power play, first line, he saw 20 minutes of ice time. He's playing against New Jersey, the Devils, the team that can't do much right. So, I just think that, 6 shots on goal in the past 2 games, 20 minutes of ice time in both, pretty much. Like, gets 3 assists. And this year, the goal scoring hasn't come in bunches for him. He has 9 goals. But this could be one that, I don't think he's that much less likely to score than like a Couturier or a Giroux. Like any of those 3 could dish one off to any of the other 3 and score. So, with all of that being said, I'm ready to move on now to the Islanders at the Rangers.
Okay, yeah. And here, we have 2 teams definitely moving in opposite directions. The Islanders took a real tough loss to the Caps. It was only 1-0, but it did feel like the Islanders were climbing a mountain just to sort of generate many chances at all. I want to say the shots were really lopsided in that one as well. So, I still think that the Rangers are slightly undervalued. Now, of course, because it's no longer Rangers at Islanders, you're not getting them at slight underdogs. You're actually getting them as slight favorites. But that's the power of home ice advantage, I suppose. And, what I think I really like here is not necessarily the Rangers money line, but I actually like the over because I do think that the Islanders can generate some chances here against this Rangers squad. We saw the Sabres, who, of course, we know they're trending up lately. but we saw them put up 40 shots against Shesterkin. So I think that this is sort of where I'm looking more toward the over. But if I had to pick a side, I'm probably going Rangers. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. The Rangers probably, if you told someone like, hey, there's a team in the NHL that has a plus, I think it's plus 31 or 32 goals, for versus against, and they're out of the playoffs, and you'd be like, oh man, like who in the Rangers? Like they've actually been pretty good over the course of the year in general. I think every team could blame COVID and a ton of other things on why they're not in the playoffs, but I think the Rangers might have the best case of like maybe they are the best team that's just not going to make the playoffs. And the Islanders, as we mentioned, are trending down a bit. I think it's a fair bet. I would rather just take the over, as you mentioned here. It seems pretty fair, especially if we find out it's like Georgiev in net or something, which I think is somewhat likely. Shesterkin's played a bunch in a row here. Other than that, though, I think the biggest note or news or importance of this game is over in the DFS community, where we're going to get probably, there could be changes, but we're going to be getting Ryan Pulock at 3,900. We've talked about how much we like Ryan Pulock. We've mentioned, everything about him, how good he is, how much he shoots, how hard he shoots, all the stuff he can do. He is, not had the points lately. I think he's 7 games now without a point. It's a good matchup, though. He played, I would say, power play one last game. It was with Barzal, so I'm going to say it's power play one last game with Dobson getting scratched. That holds true. We see Dobson's not going to play. You're getting extremely cheap Islanders against the Rangers, in a game that I like the over. So there's definitely something to that. What are your thoughts, though?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly where I'm looking player-wise. DFS, like Pulock, it's just the thing where, we were somewhat worried about Dobson stealing that prime power play job from him. And, after taking that tough loss, Coburn and Andy Green, one of them probably takes a seat and, he draws back in. But, it's still a really cheap price for a guy who gets some block shots and shots on goal and still has that power play upside. It's not been the best of times for the Islanders power play. But I do think that there's still I think that's a great value at 39 for Ryan Pulock. Other player props that I think you should keep in mind, I'm kind of digging the Zibanejad gold prop. I know it's plus 128, and that's pretty low. But he's really being fed. Like, Panarin's trying to find him for that awesome little tip play they do. I've noticed it the last few games now. Maybe the Islanders, scheme to stop it. But man, if Zibanejad puts it in the right spot, it's almost unstoppable. So I think that he offers some good value. He's been shooting a ton lately as well, so he could always find a 5-on-5 goal. And again, I like the Rangers here. So I think Zibanejad, his goal prop, his shot prop is where I'm looking. Anything else?
Nah, not really. Right. I mean, that's fair. We can move on to the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Washington Capitals. Ovi, Crosby, next. On TNT in the future, whoa. Change it up a little bit there, am I right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we already talked about it, but if anyone missed the TNT, their sort of like announcement of it featuring Andrew Ference, we're off to a great start here.
They're like, who's the captain? There's the captain of the Edmonton Oilers.
The NHL does a great job marketing their stars. I will say that much, because I guarantee you, if you ask someone from NBC to, post a promo of LeBron, they're not posting, I don't know, Kyle Kuzma or whatever.
Comparison.
Yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous, but I don't think that's necessarily on TNT. So I'm willing to give them a pass and let them actually try out their new fun, whatever ideas. But yeah, we get Pittsburgh at Washington. Of course, the status of Ovechkin is the biggest question here. I lean toward him being out. I think that's sort of where we're leaning. They've talked like he's optimistic to be back in time for the playoffs, but I don't think that means this week or anything. However, on the Pittsburgh side, it does look like we're getting Evgeny Malkin back. So if that does happen, it's not confirmed, so make sure you're checking Morning Skate. But he will take over the power play job that Jared McCann currently occupies. So there is a little bit of, news watching there, because you got to know sort of who the guys are for Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, Malkin coming back doesn't make him like a smash DFS value or anything at 5,300. I think you could go there, but we know he was, not having the best of seasons. So if you want to buy his late resurgence before he got hurt, you can. But again, he's coming off of injury. I think this Washington team is playing some really strong hockey defensively. So I'm pretty much staying away from that. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the sides of this game? It's another basic pick 'em. Washington's slight favorites at home, -115. And also in the past, we almost always saw this game as a 6.5. So seeing it, posted at a 5.5, maybe even a 6, by the time you're looking. What are you thinking though in terms of the over under?
Yeah, I definitely lean towards the over here slightly. I'm not really like super duper strong on it, but I think it's probably your better bet. Overall, I just think that both these teams have enough goal scoring upside and enough, I don't think the goaltending is terrible here, but I'm not sold on. I mean, I think it'll be Samsonov. He's had, it's amazing to see a 13-3 goalie with a 903 save percentage, but he's actually been really good as of late. So it's probably fine. This game there's just not a lot of excitement here for me overall. I don't think there's any bet that I'm really, really in on. The Capitals just look like a different team without Ovechkin, and it's a team I don't really want to watch, and it's a team I don't really think has a ton of want or drive to play, catch up, or like, I'm trying to think of the right word, like boat race, if you will, with the opposing team, because they don't have that goal scorer anymore. So I feel like it's like I don't really want to bet much on this game. It might be a game that when I'm making my parlay, I'm just not going to touch it because I don't trust what's going to happen. I don't trust anyone on Pittsburgh one to get the shot prop for me anymore. They seem to know who I picked to put in there, and they say, well, that guy's not shooting, because we talked about Crosby being like, oh, this is probably the safest guy. Well, he must have a straight donut.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a matchup between these two squads. They paired up a bunch early on, and then they'll get a few to close here. I just took a look back in the games they've played so far this year. There's been 7 goals, a shootout loss on the Capitals side, an overtime loss on the Capitals side, 5-4 the next game. And then going through, this is still very early in the year, 6-3 Penguins win, 3-1 Caps win. So, we're talking games that tend to fly over. Oh, there's 2 more, 3-2 OT loss for the Caps, and then 5-2 win for the Caps. So what is that? 4 out of 6 I read hit the over, hit at least 6 goals. I kind of feel like that's, a pretty good reason to jump on the over here. The other reason, you're talking, the Caps look like they're blah, blah, blah. Well, guess who they've played the last 3 games? The Islanders. And what do the Islanders do? They put cinder blocks on their skates and they just sit, and they try to just do as little as possible, try to get that overtime point, try to get that 1-0 win and get on home. I don't think that's this Capitals team, but I do think they're a strong squad. So I do shade the over, and I do like the Capitals money line here. We'll just mention obligatory Daniel Sprong scored yet again. I think his odds are really tightening up now, plus 240 to score. That's not going to cut it for me. But if you're talking DFS, he's 2,700. There's a lot of good values, but of course he's one of my boys. So I think I'll have some shares of him on Thursday.
Yeah, if anything, the Cap side, I don't even know. Honestly, I just think this game is going to be more of a stay away than anything else, just in general for me. And we could get over to Detroit at Carolina if you're ready.
I'm ready.
So as I've said, I think every single podcast we've ever done, I will not take Detroit. I don't care. I will not take them in the air. I will not take them anywhere. So I'm not touching the money line here, because even though I think Carolina is going to win this game, because as I mentioned, I think most podcasts, Carolina, Florida, and Tampa are all playing to not play each other. And that's, I think, a big enough motivation for them to keep really putting out the top lines, getting it going. So I'm more interested in prop bets. Detroit gives up a ton of shots against, as we keep mentioning. Svechnikov is a guy that I just take a shot prop almost every single night, and I'm sure that's positive on the year. I might even get crazy, do a little Svechnikov first goal, just get wild. Big first goal guy now. That's just the easy take here. It's not super hard. He's with Aho and Teravainen. Those guys, Teravainen being back, by the way. They are great together. They're awesome. They're fun. They're good. The lines did get jumbled a bit. Trocheck played with Nachos, and I don't even care. Someone that doesn't matter. Nino Niederreiter played with Stahl and some other guy that doesn't really matter. So what are you doing there with Carolina in general? By the way, it was Fogle with Stahl and Nino and Paquette with Trocheck and Nachos, which just put, again, like we talk about cinder blocks, like, boy, Trocheck puts up a donut. Yeah.
Yeah, SETI packets. Yeah, I mean, this is very clearly to me a Svechnikov Aho night. You could argue that people might chase their performance against Dallas. They're growing into a pretty easy matchup with Detroit. But I just think there's too many spots to really have that concern, especially when you think like Matthews, McDavid are playing on this slate. So if I'm talking the betting side of this game, I honestly feel like you could lay the minus 360 on Carolina. Like they are still playing for that top seed. They look really, really good. And again, they have Teravainen back in the fold. So like, I think that he's, just another step up for them. So I don't know, like it's tough, but this certainly isn't one where I'm thinking, oh, Detroit could be frisky. Like I kind of think Detroit's dead. I don't take any, any solace out of them shutting out the Blue Jackets until the shootout. That was just the worst game ever played, I think. Guinness actually showed up and gave them the trophy and everything. It was really cool. Tortorella took a piss on it, that whole thing. But yeah, like just this Detroit side is not the one that I really care much about, frankly. And so this just means I'm keeping it simple. I'm finding a shot prop for Svechnikov. I'm smashing it. I think your first goal, I can dig that, Svechnikov. I do like that. So if you want to get a little crazier with things, but just in general, all things Svechnikov, and then just stack the first line and Dougie and don't really get cute otherwise. So
right. We gotta just, without looking, how many players are more likely to score, says DraftKings Sportsbook, on Carolina than the first guy for Detroit?
I'm going to go with 11.
It's 10.
10.
Including Barack McGinn, Steven Lorentz, Jesper Fast.
I mean, whenever you can jam in fourth liners, you got to do it.
Then we get Jacob Vrana. Then we get Dougie, Vogel, Geeky. Geeky actually looked like, I watched some of that game because I like Carolina, and he looked pretty cool. I'm not going to probably take it, but maybe, I don't know. Martinuk. I honestly don't know what team Drew Shore's on. He could be on either team. I was like, I guess he's on Carolina. So again, we still haven't gotten to this. Then Zadina. So I'll stop there. Just saying, like, man, is DraftKings not respecting anyone on Detroit, which is fair. Adam Ernie added to COVID protocol, so that opens up a power play role for someone that's got to be just terrible. I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, they had Joey Veleno show up. He played his NHL debut. Even as a prospects guy, I don't really think he's that exciting for you. So, like, I don't think there's much here for you if you.
Okay, now we're gonna play my last game. It's called, if you click on utility and Detroit, who is the most expensive player and what's his price?
Jacob Vrana, 4,200. Next question. 4,400.
Now. Is there any other player that's going to play over 4K?
No, there's not.
The answer is no. There is not.
Oh my God. They're so bad.
I don't know. Like, the problem is I feel like there's so much value here that I want to say to play something, but I can't. Like, there's nothing here. Right. That being said, I'm not playing the goalie for Carolina because they're just not going to see, like, they're going to see like 18 shots and they're going to give up one goal and get the win. And they're just not going to be a good DFS goalie take. Like, they're wicked expensive, and it's just not that good. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts here? Like, is that fair?
Sure, I guess.
Reimer's probably going to be a net.
But he could get a shutout. Like,
he has to get a shutout. Like, you're literally like betting.
Does he have to? I don't know. Carolina, they can give up shots. I don't know. Let's just move on. I don't know how many people are actually learning anything from this debate on how terrible is Detroit. Like, we're all losers here.
This is fun though. Like, I'm having fun with this.
I mean, you also are wearing you're wearing Cleveland Browns gear, so I definitely get wanting to talk about this iteration of the Detroit Red Wings. So
it reminds me of home.
Yeah. All right. So
it feels like home to me.
We do have.
I was going to say, is Veleno have a goal prop, but he doesn't. That hurts. I was going to say, just smash it. But, okay.
Who the hell would do that?
Just me right now. For
just
fun.
you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. We have Vancouver at Toronto up next. It's actually a 7:30 start, so a bit of an island game. Big shout out to whoever scheduled that game because, oh my God, it is the most tilting thing in the world to have all the games going at 7 and then to just have that like 15 minutes from, 7:50 to 8:05 when there's just nothing else going on. And you're just sitting there like, do I have to go talk to people? Like, do I go on Twitter and yell at someone for a bit? Like, no, you get to just turn on Austin Matthews absolutely torching this decrepit Canucks team that is coming off of a 6-3 loss to the LOL Senators on Wednesday. So we're getting Toronto minus 260 on the money line. Over under swinging between 5.5 and a 6. I bet it settles closer to 6. Could even get up to 6.5. Excuse me. But I think a lot of this comes down to who Toronto rolls with in net. It sounds like Freddie is nowhere near returning, which means with Jack Campbell going on Wednesday night, it's either run back Jack or, a Hutchinson or Rittich. Yeah. So like, this is, I think, a real tough spot to sort of bet the money line on Toronto. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, last time out for Rittich against Vancouver, he gave up a beautiful 5 goals in the 6-3 loss. He has not looked good in Toronto. Part of that could be Toronto's defense isn't maybe the best world-beating defense in the world, and they do play an up-tempo game, which will produce a lot of shots. So for all these reasons involved, I'd like the over here. If you can get it at 5.5, absolutely smash it. If you get it at 6, I still think it's good. And then there's a lot of pieces to build around. Obviously, in DraftKings, Toronto's expensive. There's a little bit of value over on the Vancouver side that I think could be exploited, but I'm not too high on them. I think they're pretty much dust at this point. You could find a couple guys in there, but I'm not going to be jamming Vancouver for any reason on a back-to-back for them as well. So more or less, I'm going to be looking at pieces of Matthews as much as I can get him. I know Nylander's been red hot. He's just good in general. That power play is really good. So do you have anything you want to add to this conversation? Give me some thoughts here just so we can give them what they need.
I think my thoughts are mostly on the Toronto side. I don't really have much on Vancouver. So I will say that, yes, of course, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner are outstanding plays, but I'm kind of looking at an idea of my most expensive winger on DraftKings being William Nylander, just pairing him up with Matthews and say, Barkov or whatever at center, just because I think Nylander has the track record now for weeks of being one of the best wingers in all of fantasy, and especially daily fantasy when, you don't need to worry about hits and whatever else. So, that role on the top power play for Willie Nylander is just dynamite. So in the course of the season, he's got 35 points in 43 games. Over the last 10, he's got 11 points in those 10 games. And he's getting pretty unlucky too. He's got 2 goals on 31 shots. I mean, that's 6.5% shooting. He's at 12.5% on the year. So like you expect some pucks to go in at some point. He scored a goal against Montreal, which, helps that. But I think he keeps it going. He's been putting a ton of pucks on net. So Willie Nylander, I think, is going to be one of like my flag plant favorite plays of the day. And for, I'm all in on this Toronto squad. I think that Vancouver is just awful. The fact that Toronto lost to them twice in a row was nothing else besides a hot goalie. So I'm just not concerned. But anything else here that you wanted to mention?
I mean, I think Hellebuck's a good-looking goalie too. I don't know if I call him hot, but whatever. But had to. Austin Matthews has been shooting at the extreme rates that we're used. Are you mad at me? You look mad.
I'm okay. I just, you know what that did? It made me think about the McCann, Zucker, Carter thing, and it made me want to leave the show even more. That's
my concern. about Malkin coming back is it could break up the McCandy line, and that's just I can't have that. So, anyways, Austin Matthews though, I mean, in his past 4 games has freaking like 30 shots on net. The guy's just ripping pucks left and right. Yep. Depending on what you get on that line, like if it's 3.5, like it's easy money. If it's 4.5, which it might be, if you could get that at plus odds, I think it's fair in this matchup because Vancouver gives up so much against. It's insane. And I'm in on it. Austin Matthews, I believe, is still leading the Rocket Richard, right?
By a mile, yes.
By a mile, right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. 7 goals. Well, did McDavid scored tonight? Nope, we didn't.
You did not.
No, so 7 goals on that. So just he wants to cement that. So I think he'll keep shooting.
His goal, by the way, was insane.
I mean, it looked like there was no way he could possibly get the puck and make what he did happen, and he just made it happen.
It was like a Jedi lightsaber trick or something.
It didn't make any sense. Yeah.
I do have one more thing on the Toronto side. Rasmus Sandin actually did wind up playing 18 minutes in this one. So, yeah, of course, it's Montreal, and they were up. I think they're up 3 goals basically throughout. But that's a game where they were leading, where Sandin's playing 18 minutes. He's getting second power play time. He even got a little bit of run with the top unit when Riley came off, and the rest of the guys all stayed on for a shift. And so you're talking a minimum priced guy on DK. Look, he's not a huge floor guy or anything like that, but I do think that that's, awfully interesting. So just one note there, if you're onslaughting Toronto, I think the Sandin is a great piece, and he's just going to be a real good player for them. So let's move on. We've got 3 games left. St. Louis at Minnesota. This game, Minnesota minus 135. Look, Minnesota has not outshot a team in 22 games now. Yeah. They're really playing with fire. And at this point, I don't know how I can trust them. It's mostly the shot attempts. Like, the expected goals are still okay. But they're getting killed shot attempts wise. And let me tell you, when you've got a red hot Mike Hoffman in your building, you don't want to be giving up shot attempts from anywhere. So I'm sort of digging the St. Louis plus 115 money line, which, a month ago I'd have been like, you're freaking crazy, man. But it's just been so long now since Minnesota has shown anywhere close to the level of dominance that they had going on. Despite their strong record, they've still put up wins, but it's been through Cam Talbot and a strong power play, not necessarily this 5-on-5 dominance that we saw for so long under Bruce Boudreau and, even this year.
Yeah, I mean, I like the under and the Blues side here. It's a back-to-back, so for all those reasons involved. But like you mentioned, I mean, it really is are we going to see Kirill Kaprizov and Kevin Fiala carry the Minnesota Wild or not? And I think that there's enough reasons to consider the Blues as a decent team, and they've looked really good as of late. I believe, I'm trying to get it up, they've won I think it was 7 of their last 10 or something. They've won a lot lately. Yeah,
I mean, they looked fine versus Colorado, which is better than most teams, including Minnesota, can say. So I just think I'm sort of in on them not being terrible. I think St. Louis could get it done here. There's not a lot of props I'm very high on. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov, if you get 2.5 shots over, I mean, he's been shooting a lot, so why not? Hoffman is plus 260 to score. He's hot right now. He has a really good shot. That's fair enough. His role, it's not the best. The time on ice isn't good. So I could see why you might say, I'm not going to do it, but it's fair. All you need is that power play. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the power play with him. So also noteworthy at the end of the Wednesday game, he was playing with Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas. Now that doesn't necessarily help his time on ice, but boy, does that scream offensive upside in limited minutes. So when you consider that Hoffman's also on the top power play, that seems, I think I can easily see myself playing Mike Hoffman here, and playing his plus 260 to score.
Who was the power play defenseman?
Torrey Krug.
No, of course it was. I forgot about him because I just saw that Falk had a monster game, 30 minutes and 5 shots. So I just didn't know.
Yeah. So, I'm just sort of finding myself in on the St. Louis side. So I don't know. That's sort of my lean though. So let's cap it off. I think you said you shade the under, kind of shade the over, but I'm probably staying away from the total myself. 2 more games. We have Florida at Chicago. Florida just, nuked Nashville. Poor UC Soros tried his absolute damnedest, but it just was not good enough.
How many shots? Wait, I gotta actually look. It seemed like every single player on Florida had like 7 shots on net.
They had 20 in both the first and the second period. Yeah. I don't know what they had in the third though. Let's see. Look. 55. They had 55 total shots there. Like, just, that's madness. But the even crazier part is we're still getting Sam Bennett way cheap. I don't get it. Like, this team just did not seem so freaking dynamic. And all of a sudden Sam Bennett's in there and they're just going insane. Sam Bennett's, this, top power play, like, just monster. Like, they don't even need Patrick Hornqvist, which is, insane when you think that at the beginning of the year, just how much of the offense Hornqvist himself was, generating. So I'm still very much in on this Florida side. Minus 160, even on the road, just seems really, really weak. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm feeling pretty good about even the puck line there. But what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think Chicago's pretty done. They're not making the playoffs. They haven't been very good. I think, they put up a couple goals against Tampa last time out on Tuesday, hit the over. So, and we got 6.5 over under here. I'm just not going to touch it. I think that it's, I kind of like the over, but I'm just not that interested there. I'd rather just grab the Florida side. I know you're going to get better odds on the over under, but it doesn't matter to me. Like, Florida is a really good chance here to get the W. But more so than that, in DFS, we're talking about some real good value. Barkov actually went out with Duclair in the last game at 5-on-5 and on the first power play. So some value in Duclair at 4,500. He kind of takes the Carter Verhaeghe role. Barkov 8K. Obviously, his shot prop is always in play. Then we get Sam Bennett, Jonathan Huberdeau, and Owen Tippett, who absolutely broke the slate together. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't play it. Owen Tippett had 8 shots on goal and an assist. Barkov had 4
that was
shots
actually
on goal.
Yeah, that was supposed to be what's his face. It wasn't Denisenko, but it was the other guy, the other rookie.
I think it was supposed to be Denisenko because
was it? Okay.
Denisenko ended up playing with was it
Heponiemi. It was one of the two, and then Tippett's like, "Nah, guys, this is my job." Doesn't even
shots on goal.
Doesn't even need power play time to do that. Like, can you imagine?
Barkov had 5 points. Not Barkov. Huberdeau had 5 points, 6 shots on goal. Yeah. So just some mental math, a lot of shots, and then Sam Bennett. How many shots? Just 3. Only 3 assists. But so that means they combined for 8, 6, and 3. Mental math.
17.
17. Thank you.
Good job, DJ.
That's pretty good for one line. I probably could have done it, but I was looking at the numbers. I wanted you to be my calculator. You didn't.
Usually looking at the numbers is easier, but we'll let that one slide. All right. We're all getting loopy here. So we've got one game left. Did you have anything on the Chicago side? Sorry. I have to mention this. Adam Boqvist, broken wrist, done for the year.
Right.
I'm just pouring one out. What a year. I think he comes back next year, takes another leap into absolute stardom. He had really, really, really strong numbers. The people last year who were going, this Adam Boqvist can't play defense. They're not saying that anymore. So, sucks to see a season end early, but, still very excited about one of my favorite, prospects that I'm excited about in the NHL. So let's move on from there. Last game of the night, Calgary at Edmonton. So Calgary waiting for Edmonton, who is returning from Winnipeg victorious. They just won 3-1 on Wednesday night. Connor McDavid, of course, being Connor McDavid, had a hand in all 3 goals, assisting on all of them, no goals. Look, I don't know that this Calgary plus 125 is great value, but man, am I tempted to pull the trigger here. It just feels sort of like the game where, Edmonton basically just knocked off Winnipeg for their their 2 seed. I mean, it's going to take a real big effort for Winnipeg to overtake them. And it's also going to take a whole heck of a lot for anything to change as far as, the seeding goes between the all 4 teams, basically. So they're almost locked into a home ice advantage against the Jets. This seems like a classic letdown spot if you're using these sort of terminology. Mike Smith in net for Edmonton.
He's like 39. I feel like I did not know that until I looked the other day. He's old, not to be mean.
He is. So, of course, Mike Smith has been good, but we're also
he's been good though. Yeah.
This revenge sort of, storyline. I don't know. I definitely see this being a bit of a mess, myself, like this game. So let's just call it, Calgary upset.
I'm fine with it if that's what we want to do here. I mean, they are playing for their lives at this point. They need to win a big bushel of games to possibly get back in the playoff mix. With Montreal losing on Wednesday, they got to get the W here. Why not? Let's say they do it. I like fun. This is fun. The one kind of bigger note from Calgary is that Mangiapane took over on the first power play, which took a role from, correct me if I'm wrong, Matthews and Chuck.
That's right.
Therefore, Mangiapane, I'm not sure at plus 270 if I'm feeling extra risky and taking that to score line, but it is important to note if you are kind of stacking Calgary, which I don't think is crazy. I mean, this game I think is going to hit the over at 5.5 for sure. It might get closer to the 6.5 range, but so try to bet that early. He had Mangiapane 19 minutes out last time. He's a guy that's seen the shot bonus hit before. He has 13 goals in the year. He's not a dud of a player in DFS, and he's 3,500. So I think, a pivot away from Barry Boulet, who's going to be real popular, as we already mentioned, could be a guy like Mangiapane in a better matchup. Just not quite as consistently as of late a player, but
yeah.
Who is he playing with 5-on-5? Do you have that?
Monahan and Gaudreau, baby.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, honestly, him and Barry Boulet, who you taking here? Barry Boulet as of late is in form, but Mangiapane, it's not like an egregious take to say that he could be on the same playing field as taking Barry Boulet.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 1v1 conversation, I'm leaning Barry Boulet, but as far as the stack goes, I mean, Monahan sub 4K as well, which is just insane. So, if you're bound, it takes a little bit of imagination, but I do think we could see, a pretty big game from Calgary here, trying to stay alive. All right. I don't really have much on the Edmonton side. I mean, they did exactly what they said they were going to do. They played McDavid a ton. McDavid did all the things. Basically, no one else did anything. So yeah, we could see some changes, but we don't really know them right now. So let's just recap some of our favorite bets from these 10 games and a couple of DFS stacks and get out of here.
Sounds good to me. So yeah, we have 10 games. So there's a lot kind of that we went over. So but I think, favorite bets of the night. There's some huge favorites. There's some underdogs. There's some this, that, and the other thing. I think that my favorite bet. Oh God, this is tough. Honestly, just looking through all these games. What did I feel strongest on? Do you have one ready? I don't want to.
I mean, I'm just going to go back to the Svechnikov. Let's just do a shot prop on Svechnikov. But yeah, he's been a classic, but this is a great spot for him. And I think that Teravainen just opens up a lot for that line in particular.
Okay. Whew, boy. I mean, I'm trying to do one of the odd. I think, the Florida minus 162 is real good. I think that's probably just your, the easiest bet that I think has that is just kind of a bit of a misprice as far as those. And then if you get Rupe Hintz shot prop, I really like that a lot. I think that he's, in a really good spot against Tampa. They're going to be they're playing for their lives. They're going to be playing him a whole bunch. And he's been shooting a lot more as of late, been really kind of a trigger guy for them. So those two are probably real strong. And then, I definitely agree with Svechnikov quite a bit. That's real good. And then Pasternak over as well. I think 3.5. I think 3.5 over is super good.
Okay. And I'll give you a couple, two slate home favorites in the Rangers and the Capitals. Give me those two teams on the money line here. You can parlay them together, get some nice value if you want, or just bet them solo and still, basically double your money on them. So I think those two are real nice home ice advantage bets on teams that I just think are playing better right now than their opponents. So that all seems like a big bonus to me. DFS. Let's just parlay one of those right away in the Washington first line. Evgeny Kuznetsov and Tom Wilson still in that first line, baby. I think this game, again, these games have gone way over in the past. Even if, I guess I'm assuming Ovechkin's out with Tom Wilson being on the top power play, but pairing them up with Daniel Sprong, it's a ton of value. It lets you play, the Matthews to McDavids and still field the team. So I really think that that's a great way to unlock some value and that people might overlook it just because Vegas doesn't quite have this game, where I think it should be at 6.5.
Yeah, I think just kind of almost building an entire lineup out. The more I'm thinking about it is to take that Florida stack that I mentioned in Bennett, Huberdeau, Tippett, which, like I mentioned, it's a bit point chasey, but it's real good. And maybe pairing that with Austin Matthews. I don't know if you could get Marner and Morgan Riley, but Morgan Riley is also a real good value here. He is 4,700 on DraftKings. Now, if you do all of that and you throw in our boy Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen saying that I didn't play Boston, that leaves you 43 defense utility. You could definitely get Pulock and another. Maybe you think I like the Flyers and you say, you know what? I like the Flyers. I'm going to take power play 2, 20-ish, 25 minutes a night, Travis Sanheim. I have 4,900 left. That's going to get me building you an entire lineup. Look how nice I am. Stuck. Never mind.
Right. Well, thank you, DJ, for your trip there. We've mentioned a lot of stacks, I think, that I do like. I will stick to the script and go with the Calgary top line in their upset over Edmonton. I think Monahan, Gaudreau, and Mangiapane do get it done. Correlate them up with Mark Giordano for that classic guy who's in there who could easily get multiple points, could get the blocks bonus, and from time to time even gets a shot bonus, oddly enough. So give me that little 4-man stack in some big field tournaments. I think has a lot of upside. So what else you got for me, Deej? Anything before we go?
Yeah, I guess last note of anything else. NFL draft tomorrow. We're in the Brown stuff. If you want to join me in the NFL draft drinking game, please check me out on Twitter at DJ_Mitchell94. I built a template on Excel that I could just send you and you can edit all you want. You can add trades, you can do whatever you want. It really is just about getting the player with the pick right. So if you get, let's just say, for example, you think Trevor Lawrence is going to go 3 because you're an idiot. Then Trevor Lawrence goes number 1, like everyone knows, you would take two sips of your drink or 2 seconds, however you want to play. It's really just for fun. I get nothing for that. I did this all on my own. It's just a fun little thing. So why not? I'll just kind of pitch it here. So if you like drinking beer or really anything, drink whatever you want. You could drink water for all I care. But if you want to make a mock draft, tweet it at me. I'll definitely retweet them all. And yeah, we'll see who kind of does the best. We'll do the total sip tracker. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, DJ's got the NFL draft drinking game down pat. So
I think I'm the only one that does that.
Yeah, maybe
I'm the only person.
Yeah, we'll throw this over to Pat Mayo. Throw it over to him. Be like, hey, boss, you want to get DJ on the main show to sort of sell us on some drinking games.
He favorited it by I put it out there originally. Hey, I'm wondering where my invite's just not coming. Yeah, maybe get lost.
I bet it's coming. Last thing I'll say is obviously thanks to Prize Picks, the title sponsor of the show. Just make sure you're heading over there, show us some support.
Under.
Yes. Eagle McMahon to have a good round, which in the scoring is an under. Very good.
Correct.
And Prize Picks, you're mixing, matching multiple sports, multiple players. It's a great time. So show both of us some support by heading over there using promo code MMN when you sign up. So with all that said, we are getting out of here. Enjoy your Thursdays, everyone. Best of luck, and we will see you.